This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, fueling our podcast and giving us the boost behind this mic. Thank you for your support.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix.
Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to Code Flix, where we dive into the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we're revisiting a defining film of the late 90s, Deep Impact, a story of survival, sacrifice, and humanity's desperate struggle against an existential threat from the cosmos. This time I watched Deep Impact. The concept of a world teetering on the edge of an apocalypse was just beginning to register in my mind. That same year, Armageddon was everywhere. On TV, in conversations, in classrooms. So naturally, Deep Impact became part of that wave of disaster-fueled curiosity. But unlike its more explosive counterpart, Deep Impact brought something heavier, something more human. At the heart of it, a comet hurtling towards Earth, an extinction-level event capable of wiping out mankind unless drastic action is taken. This wasn't just spectacle. This was dread, quiet and creeping. The film features a powerhouse cast. Morgan Freeman delivers gravitas as the president, trying to maintain calm. Elijah Wood is the young amateur astronomer whose accidental discovery sets everything in motion. Tia Leone plays a journalist digging for political scandal, only to uncover a government cover-up hiding something far more terrifying than infidelity. And when the truth comes out, it hits like a shockwave. A massive comet is on its way. Plans are made, shelters are built, sacrifices are chosen, and humanity is forced to face the unthinkable. Unlike many disaster films that lean into heroics and last-minute saves, Deep Impact dares to sit in the silence of what really means to prepare for the end. I've often wondered if something like this happened in real life, what would we do? Would we panic? Would we find hope? One thing I do know, if that comet hits Jamaica, that's it. The whole island gone. We're not just talking flooding, we're talking total wipeout. But that's the power of Deep Impact. It doesn't just show you a disaster, it makes you feel its weight, its sorrow, the fear, its finality, and in doing so, it becomes unforgettable.
Deep Impact is a 1998 American science fiction disaster film directed by Mimi Leder, written by Bruce Joel Rubin and Michael Tolkien, and starring Robert Duvall, Tia Leone, Elijah Wood, Vanessa Redgrave, Maximilian Schell, and Morgan Freeman. Steven Spielberg served as an executive producer of this film. It was released by Paramount Pictures in North America and by DreamWorks Pictures internationally on May 8, 1998. The film depicts humanity's attempts to prepare for and destroy a 7-mile, 11 kilometers wide comet set to collide with Earth and cause a mass extinction. Deep Impact was released in the same summer as the similarly themed Armageddon, which fared better at the box office, while astronomers described Deep Impact as being more accurate. Deep Impact was slightly better received critically than Armageddon, although both ultimately received mixed reviews. Deep Impact grossed over $349.5 million worldwide on an $80 million production budget, becoming the sixth highest grossing film of 1998. It was the final film by cinematographer Dietrich Lohmann, who died before the film's release. On May 10, 1998 in Richmond, Virginia, Leo Biedermann observes an unidentified object in the night sky at his astronomy club's star party. His picture is sent to astronomer Dr. Marcus Wolf, who realizes it is a comet on a collision course with Earth. Wolf dies in a car crash while racing to raise the alarm. A year later, Jenny Lerner investigates Secretary of the Treasury Alan Rittenhouse over his connection with the Ellie, whom she assumes to be a mistress. She and Eric are confused when they find him and his daughter Lily loading a boat with large amounts of food and other survival gear. Lerner is apprehended by the FBI and taken to meet President Tom Beck, who persuades her not to share the story in return for a prominent role in the press conference he will arrange. She subsequently discovers that ELE is actually an acronym, ELE, which stands for Extinction Level Event. 2 days later, Beck announces that the comet Wolf-Biedermann is on course to impact the Earth in roughly 1 year and could cause humanity's extinction. He reveals that the United States and Russia have been constructing the Messiah in orbit, a spacecraft to transport a team to alter the comet's path with nuclear bombs. The Messiah launches a short time later with a crew of 5 American astronauts and 1 Russian cosmonaut, led by Captain Spurgeon Tanner. They land on the comet's outermost layer and drill the nuclear bombs deep beneath its surface, but the comet shifts into the sunlight. Consequently, Orion is blinded and an explosive release of gas propels Gus into space. The remaining crew escape the comet and detonate the bombs. However, rather than deflect the comet, the bombs split it in 2. Beck announces the mission's failure in a television address, and that both pieces, the larger now named Wolf and the smaller named Biedermann, are still headed for Earth. Wolf is on a collision course with Western Canada, and its impact is expected to fill the atmosphere with dust, blocking all sunlight for 2 years and creating an impact winter that will kill all life on the planet's surface. Martial law is imposed and a lottery selects 800,000 Americans to join 200,000 pre-selected individuals in underground shelters in Missouri's Limestone Bluffs. Lerner is pre-selected, as are the Biedermanns, as gratitude for Leo discovering the comet, though his girlfriend Sarah and her family are not selected. Lerner's mother Robin, upon learning most senior citizens are ineligible for the lottery, commits ritual suicide. Leo marries Sarah in a vain attempt. While this saves her, the Hotchners are still not selected, and she refuses to go without them. A last-ditch effort to deflect the comets with ICBMs fails. Upon arrival at the shelter, Leo eschews his safety and leaves to find Sarah. He reaches her on the freeway and takes her and her baby brother to higher ground while Vicky and Chuck remain. Lerner gives up her seat on an evacuation helicopter to Beth and the latter's daughter Caitlin, and instead travels to her childhood beach home where she reconciles with her father Jason. Biedermann hits the Atlantic Ocean near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and creates a mega tsunami that destroys several countries and much of the east coast of the United States, reaching the Ohio and Tennessee valleys plus Europe and Africa. Millions, including Lerner, Jason, Vicky, and Chuck, perish while countless more are left homeless. Leo, Sarah, Sarah's brother, and other survivors make it to safety in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. The Messiah crew, now dangerously low on life support and remaining propellant fuel, decide to sacrifice themselves by flying deep inside Wolf and detonating their remaining nuclear bombs. They accept Spurgeon, whose sons are on active duty, and say goodbye to their loved ones by video call before executing their plan. Wolf is blown into 1,000,000 pieces which burn harmlessly in the atmosphere and light up the sky for an hour, averting further catastrophe. Sometime after the waters recede, Beck addresses thousands at an under-construction replacement United States Capitol and announces the start of rebuilding their home that the Messiah has saved. Here are some theme and symbols in the film. Themes: humanity in the face of extinction. The film explores how individuals and societies react to the knowledge of an impending global catastrophe. It highlights both fear and resilience, focusing on sacrifice, duty, and the instinct to preserve life and legacy. Sacrifice for the greater good. Characters make profound personal sacrifices: astronauts on a suicide mission, government officials facing public panic, and everyday people making peace with their mortality, underscoring the nobility and cost of selflessness. Family and legacy. Family bonds are a central emotional focus. The film emphasizes the desire to protect loved ones and ensure continuity, portraying parents, children, and partners making difficult decisions in the face of annihilation. Government, leadership, and transparency. The ethical responsibilities of leadership during a crisis are scrutinized. The government's initial secrecy and eventual reveal of the crisis reflect the tension between public panic and the right to know the truth. Survival and inequality. The lottery system for sheltering people in underground bunkers spotlights themes of class and privilege, showing how survival can be tied to status, connections, or perceived usefulness. Hope and renewal. Despite the apocalyptic stakes, the film closes on a note of cautious optimism, with survivors emerging to rebuild. It suggests that hope can endure even after great loss. Symbols. The comet, Wolf or Biedermann. The incoming comet represents an unstoppable force of nature and the fragility of human civilization. It also serves as a metaphor for sudden, uncontrollable change. The Ark, underground shelter, symbolizes both salvation and exclusivity. Drawing from biblical allusions, it represents human attempts to preserve life and culture, but also highlights ethical dilemmas over who gets to survive. The lighthouse and ocean, at the end. The lighthouse, standing amid destruction, represents guidance, continuity, and the enduring human spirit. The ocean, which brings destruction and renewal, symbolizes both death and rebirth. Presidential addresses. These function symbolically as moral anchors and historical record-keeping. They portray leadership, unity, and humanity's capacity to face reality with grace and purpose. The wedding and baby represent life continuing in the face of doom, symbols of hope, continuity, and the enduring human desire to create meaning even in dark times. Conclusion. Deep Impact blends disaster spectacle with intimate human drama, using a cosmic threat to examine ethical choices, sacrifice, leadership, and the resilience of the human spirit. Through its grounded themes and potent symbols, the film becomes more than a tale of planetary survival. It is a meditation on what it means to live meaningfully when time is running out.
They say the world won't end with a bang, but with a quiet voice, a shared moment, a story told. This podcast isn't monetized. There's no secret bunker, no corporate backing, just one voice, hoping to reach others before the wave hits. If you're listening and it's resonating, share it with someone who'd appreciate it. A fellow sci-fi soul, curious mind, and leave a comment, like a time capsule, a record that you were here. Every listen, every follow, every share is one more light in the sky. The clock's ticking. Let's make this moment count.
Here is a character analysis of the key characters from Deep Impact, 1998, directed by Mimi Leder. The film follows multiple interconnected storylines as humanity faces the threat of an extinction-level comet impact. President Tom Beck, Morgan Freeman. President Beck is calm, composed, and authoritative, offering steady leadership in the face of global catastrophe. His demeanor is marked by dignity and empathy, distinguishing him from more stereotypical, reactionary disaster movie politicians. Core traits: stoic, compassionate, honest. Role: the moral center of leadership, delivering difficult truths without sugarcoating them. Symbolism: Beck represents responsible governance and the burden of decision-making during existential threats. He speaks with clarity and reason, anchoring the film's emotional and narrative gravity. Jenny Lerner, Tare Leone. Jenny is an MSNBC journalist who inadvertently uncovers the truth about the comet while investigating what she thinks is a political scandal. As she becomes a key media figure during the crisis, her arc shifts from ambitious reporter to a woman reconciling with personal loss and sacrifice. Core traits: intelligent, persistent, emotionally guarded. Arc: from career-driven and emotionally closed off to self-sacrificing and reconciliatory. Symbolism: Jenny represents personal growth under pressure and the struggle to find human connection when the world is unraveling. Her final act, choosing to be with her estranged father, embodies redemption and closure. Leo Biedermann, Elijah Wood. A teenage amateur astronomer who discovers the comet, Leo is thrust into fame and eventually becomes part of the survival lottery. His storyline focuses on young love, survival instincts, and growing up in the shadow of doom. Core traits: innocent, brave, emotionally grounded. Arc: from ordinary teen to symbol of hope and renewal. Symbolism: Leo represents youth's resilience and the instinct to protect loved ones. His choice to marry and rescue Sarah shows maturity and the drive to preserve love and life beyond apocalypse. Sarah Hochner, Lili Sobieski. Leo's girlfriend, Sarah is at first resigned to her fate when her family isn't selected for the survival lottery. She is loyal, emotional, and torn between her love for Leo and her family obligations. Core traits: loyal, vulnerable, emotionally intense. Arc: from despair to determination as she reunites with Leo and accepts the responsibility of survival. Symbolism: Sarah embodies emotional realism in disaster, representing fear, love, and moral struggle. Spurgeon Efisha Tanner, Robert Duvall. Veteran astronaut and former moonwalker Tanner leads the Messiah space mission to intercept the comet. Initially resented by younger crew members for being old-fashioned, he earns their respect through wisdom and sacrifice. Core traits: experienced, calm, quietly heroic. Arc: aged mentor who proves that experience, not ego, saves lives. Symbolism: Tanner represents honor, tradition, and the passing of the torch between generations. His final act is one of selfless leadership. Oren Monash, Ron Eldard. One of the younger astronauts aboard Messiah, Monash is skeptical of Tanner but eventually bonds with him. His journey reflects fear, growth, and the weight of responsibility. Core traits: sarcastic, skeptical, brave. Arc: learns humility and courage, contributing to the mission's final success. Symbolism: represents youthful arrogance tempered by crisis. Robin Lerner, Vanessa Redgrave. Jenny's estranged mother, who embraces life on her own terms. Though her role is brief, she imparts key emotional insight to Jenny, urging her to stop chasing validation and focus on meaningful connection. Core traits: witty, insightful, detached but loving. Symbolism: Robin serves as a generational voice, showing how people cope differently with disaster, through quiet dignity and acceptance. Jason Lerner, Maximilian Schell. Jenny's father, remarried and emotionally distant. Their strained relationship becomes a central emotional thread, culminating in their reconciliation at the moment of death. Core traits: distant, guilt-ridden, ultimately loving. Symbolism: Jason's role is to embody emotional regret and closure, themes that echo across many character arcs in the film. Summary: Deep Impact focuses not just on disaster spectacle, but on human responses to existential crisis, sacrifice, reconciliation, leadership, and love. Each character's journey reflects different aspects of what it means to face the end. Some accept it with dignity, others fight to survive, and some evolve in profound ways. It's a story about choices when time is running out. Here is a detailed overview of the production and design of the film. With its serious tone, ensemble cast, and grounded approach, the film stood apart from the more sensational Armageddon, released the same year, and focused heavily on realism in both production and design. Building construction / production overview. Director, Mimi Leder. Brought a human-centric lens to a global catastrophe, focusing on personal sacrifice and leadership under pressure. Writers, Bruce Joel Rubin and Michael Tolkien. The screenplay emphasized character-driven drama and institutional responses over flashy heroics. Studios involved: DreamWorks SKG and Paramount Pictures. DreamWorks co-founder Steven Spielberg served as executive producer, influencing the film's tone and ambition. Filming locations: Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia, for government and White House scenes. Los Angeles sound stages for interiors and space sets. Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia, final scenes showing the Ark and resettlement Ares post-impact. Artist palette production design. Production designer, Leslie Dilley. Academy Award winner for Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Dilley's task was to build both grounded, real-world government and civilian environments and complex space and sci-fi settings like the Space Shuttle Messiah. Small Blue Diamond 1. Government and Crisis Infrastructure. White House and Press Briefing Room, constructed with high attention to authenticity, mirrored the real West Wing layout. FEMA and NASA bunkers, designed with muted lighting, utilitarian tech, and early digital control panels to reflect a late 90s federal operations style. Presidential bunker, built to look like a Cold War-style underground fortress, with steel beams, reinforced walls, and harsh lighting. Small Blue Diamond 2. Messiah Shuttle and Space Sequences. Inspired by NASA Space Shuttle interiors, but retrofitted with futuristic enhancements. The spacecraft's interior set included realistic control panels, switches, and mechanical readouts. Cryogenic sleep pods and robotic arms. The exterior CGI design of the Messiah featured modular solar panels, a heavy fuselage, and rugged textures, reflecting its dual role as a deep spacecraft and a nuclear delivery platform. Comet design, created through a combination of miniatures, CGI, by Pacific Data Images and ILM, and matte paintings to reflect an ominous, icy, deeply cratered surface. Small Blue Diamond 3. Disaster visuals and Earth destruction. The impact sequence, tidal wave hitting the East Coast, used large-scale CGI compositing and miniature water tank work. Notably, the wave destroying New York bridges and skyscrapers was accomplished using a combination of scale models and digital water simulations. The aftermath scenes, ashfall, devastated landscapes, and arcs, employed desaturated color grading, dust effects, and practical debris on location. Small Blue Diamond 4. The Ark and Rebuilding. Located in the Appalachian Mountains, the underground Ark was designed as a self-contained biosphere. Minimal detail shown, reinforcing mystery, but design implied military construction, bunkered living quarters, and modular long-term habitat facilities. Costume design. Costume designer, Ruth Myers. Government officials, tailored suits for President Beck, Morgan Freeman, and staff reflected professionalism and stability under duress. Astronauts, NASA-style flight suits with some stylized, darker modifications to fit a serious tone. Civilian costumes were designed to evolve from normal life to crisis mode practicality, jackets, backpacks, and subdued colors in later scenes. Headphone music and sound design. Score by James Horner, a deeply emotional and dramatic orchestral score that underscored sacrifice, awe, and global dread. Sound design balanced the subtle chaos of public reaction with the thunderous force of natural disaster. Explosions and the wave sequence were enhanced with layered sound engineering to simulate planetary-scale destruction. Wrench visual effects. Visual effects supervisor, Scott Farrar. Also worked on The Abyss, Backdraft. The Comet, Explosion, Wave, and space travel visuals were handled by ILM and Pacific Data Images. VFX focused on realism over stylization. Slow, inevitable motion of the comet emphasized dread. Detailed rendering of tsunami wave physics and urban destruction. Space sequences were weighty, dark, and deliberately quiet, emphasizing the harshness of space. Television legacy and influence. Deep Impact was praised for its sobriety and emotional realism. Its production design remains a high point in the disaster genre, less glossy than Armageddon, but more grounded and introspective. Frequently cited in discussions about early 2000s cinematic disaster aesthetics and representation of institutional response to global crises.
So here are my personal insights and interpretations of Deep Impact, including favorite moments, themes, and characters. So the first thing I have to say about this, film is that astronomer, the man made a discovery and he couldn't get to share it, right? Right out the gate, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit more, right? And it just says, that sometimes some things happen in life that you aren't prepared for, and it can cause some very weird and curious things to happen, right? But yeah, let's get into it. So, Leo Biedermann, right? Played by Elijah Wood, spot a strange object in the night sky while him a stargaze with him astronomy club, right? So him dead and him a look on it and, him girlfriend, who at the time we thought it was just one of him classmate or something like that, she had say, it look like the star there, a particular star. And he's like, no, that don't look like the star. It's not it. And him convinced on it. So them send the photo to astronomer Dr. Marcus Wolf, that are the teacher, right? Send it off to him and him get it and him calculate the path and him realize say it's a comet and a collision course for Earth. So of course the man want to get out this discovery quick, because boy, it big, the size is big and thing, and him realize how important and dire it is to humanity. The man run out and thing and jump in him car and thing, and while him did it and thing now pay attention while I drive, come a multitask, some people love multitask and drive, and I've seen a lot of persons been doing that in a lot of YouTube videos and thing, and I have to say sometimes I don't like to see them doing it. Don't be videoing and or trying to engage an audience while you're talking and driving. It's like drinking and driving. It should be illegal. You know what I'm saying? You can't be doing two things at once, right? And the man end up in a car accident. One truck come in the opposite direction, and the truck man took him that give problem to car. The truck man him never pay attention. Him never pay attention, and he just lick him man, right? And he had the Discovery on disc. Back in the day, they used to have diskette. I don't know how many of you young people know what diskettes are, but yes, we used to use diskettes in computers, and you can look it up. Diskettes would be able to hold a certain amount of space on it, and you'll be saying that is way too small. 3.5 megabytes, I think. Yeah, that's way too small now, right? 3.5 megabytes don't cut it in anything that you're doing, right? Not even a simple little program on a computer now has that. Anyways, back to the movie. So with him dies that, right? So basically the movie I tell you say this man would have made a discovery and thing. But as I've said before in my episode on Contact, that scientists around the globe are actually supposed to be a part of making these discoveries, because if one man make a discovery, he will share his knowledge with others, right? Which he was, in fairness, the movie was showing that, yeah, him definitely not trying to share results, and that is what caused the issue, because he ended up in the accident. First of all, him internet never work, it looked like, and that is why, he ended up have to get into the car. But yeah, the fact that he was the only one who discovered it, still you might have somebody else who discovered it at some point, right? Which the movie skips over. So they didn't really show you who made the other discovery. Was it NASA? Was it some other agency around the world that is doing astronomy, actively watching the stars, right? Yeah. So a year later, right, in the movie time, we catch up with a reporter named Jennifer Lerner, right? Tia Leone. She investigates what she believes is a political sex scandal and thing. Now, how she end up with this story was quite curious too, because her boss basically I say, yo, you need to do that story here or else. You know what I'm saying? This is your chance to do so and so and thing or whatever. She never really want to take on this story because she's like, I'm not really interested in doing this. But it does sell the papers and it does make the news on TV. So, them say basically you need to do it. So she goes and she does the best of what she can do, right? As a journalist. She here say it was one political sex scandal, and so she's trying to find out from the man who has been the center of it, apparently, about this Ellie, right? And so the way the man answer, it seemed like say it could have been confirmation that yes, him indeed did do something with us, with the sex scandal. So she was like a little bit taken aback by the way how he might behave too, because she said something not too right, but you could have seen on her face like she said, is this really what's what's up with all of the packing away of stuff? Because he was packing a lot of food items and thing, and going off on a trip supposedly with his daughter. So after that, no, she get detained by the FBI, right? Who said them need to talk to her. You see me, I say, so she knows that something up now, She realized, something up. And she realized now, so she's meeting with the president. President comes in, Tom Beck, that's Morgan Freeman. And him come to her basically and tell her, say, hey, she need to sit on the story and and she said, I don't think, with all due respect, I should be sitting on this story, because I think this needs to be this is in the public interest, and as a reporter, it's my job to report on the public's interest. So, because he couldn't convince her to sit on the story, really, him start to kind of lay it out to her, say, hey, if that thing here come out, bam, 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 and thing, this are gonna be the situation. Now, while he's talking to her about this, it's not as if he might tell her or confirming the story or not, but he did say ELE, and that leads her to do some research when she went home after she left, to find out that it means extinction level event, right? And that a 7-mile wide comet is on course to strike Earth. And it is then that things have gone sideways. So at a press conference held by the president, he revealed the comet to the world, i.e., the US, right? And what they are planning, right, in order to get the US Russia space mission, the Messiah, right? It's a spacecraft that they have created to intercept the comet and to plant nuclear bombs to destroy it. Now, Jenny would have gotten the first question, right? And her first question, right? And she was basically just, she was ready for it because she already did kind of have an idea of what he was coming with. She asked about what would be happening to the population, if there is any, it's a big question. If there is any backup plan to what will happen to the population if the comets hit, because they would have had a building that would shelter only a certain amount of people. So that would have been something that everybody wanted to find out, right? So then prep the caves just in case that these things happen, and it would be chosen by lottery, right? And skill, and the information would have been given afterwards, right? Because when the mission was set up and stuff, the crew of the 5 American astronauts and the 1 Russian, right? They all seemed like they were cool, right? Of course, one of the astronauts him have more experience than the rest of them, right? He has been on a mission before into space, and this would have been them, looking at him to say, boy, you're only here because you basically have street cred, basically, as a astronaut. And can I tell you, Robert Duvall is a good portrayal of a veteran astronaut, right? The way how him just seem like he understand the whole thing. He's not trying to lord his expertise over them, but he's trying to be like that older advisor, that elder will give you some good advice, and probably at the time you're like, elder, you not even know what going on nowadays, so what you know about these things, but the elder already have lived through certain things, and so that gives him the benefit, right, of being able to provide the much needed advice that you need in this situation. In this situation, however, they are about to land on a comet that is flying through space at how much million miles, right, per hour. They got to intercept it, and they're going to drill nuclear charges into the core of it, right? Now, as they had mentioned in the whole briefing, right, that these things were calculated down to a particular, you know, moment and time and so on. And you have to appreciate the fact that the movie kind of show you say, all right, you have actual people, whether they're at work with them for get these numbers done and all of those things, right? Of course, like any other thing or any other plot in any movie, the explosion fails to destroy the comet, right? It actually splits it into 2 fragments, right? A larger one, which we'll call the wolf, and the smaller one we'll call the Biedermann, right? Because wolf was the bigger astronomer, and the smaller one is Biedermann, Biedermann is the youths. Yeah. So them still on the way to Earth. So at this point, things get really crazy, right? Because now the White House has put out a lottery, right? Because they would have had caves set up, as I said before, to house and shelter millions of people. And so the persons who they are selecting, them said I'm going to select the best scientists and people with certain skills that they need, that would be needed for the rebuild after the cataclysm, right? And the other persons will be selected by lottery, right? Them just basically go through. Persons who aren't eligible for the lottery would be elderly people. So say I like elderly people, them these are them last days on earth, right? Yeah, for the US, that is, because they did mention that the other countries have their own system and what they're doing, which I respect. They never make it sound like the whole world, like America is the whole world. Even though they kind of make it, they still didn't go in depth or talk, much about it. But they hinted in such a way that the other country them I do them due diligence, I do for them part. Yeah. And the fact that they did include a Russian on it, it's realistic because even nowadays America does a lot of the missions and Russia joins the missions at many times with them and sometimes vice versa. Russia and them have for them space program and when them ready for send up them astronauts or cosmonauts I should say, then they have them Americans might have one and two Americans come with them, right? And in the international space station that they have, they would have go there and thing and them depending on how their program is going, they will have persons up there coming down and thing or going up. It's almost like you're waiting on the bus kind of situation. Speaking of which, at this point in time, based on the news stories, most person might be aware that America won't be using a particular space agency anymore for now because the person who is in charge of it has decided to withdraw his services. But we'll see, because it's an ongoing thing and you never know. Things might change. There might be some kind of law or something or, some legal ramifications for doing something like that, right? Right now it's just talk. So let's hope it's not anything else because the astronauts that are up there now, they might be wanting to come home and they might be a little bit stranded because there isn't any missions that can go for them, right? Other countries would have to go build one mission just to go for them. Anyways, I decided to plug that in right here. So back to the whole doom and gloom of this movie. So, of course, when time people hear about lottery, nobody now go want to be all calm about it and collected. Things go awry, people rioting in the streets and all sort of something, which is very true in this film, by the way how they showed it, they portrayed it really well. And Jenny, would have learned now that, she was chosen, right? And her parents were not because of the fact that them are old people, right? Them not depend the lottery and at all. And so she had made an attempt earlier on in the film to get her father and mother together, and that never really worked out because the father never really did interested at the time because him have him young little Mustang with him. Yeah, him young woman, yes man. So he wasn't really interested in that. We'll be right back after these messages. They said we had time. They said the algorithms would do the work. But here we are, just you and me, and this little podcast, trying to make an impact before the digital noise swallows us whole. If you've been enjoying the episodes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who loves sci-fi, someone who's watching the skies like you. Leave a comment. Your words might just be the message that echoes long after the dust settles. This podcast isn't backed by ad dollars or corporate bunkers. It's built on passion, storytelling, and a hope that we're not too late. Because sometimes the smallest signal leaves the deepest impact. Now, back to Leo Biedermann now. So being the youth who discovered it, right? One of the persons who discovered the comet. He is a national hero, and so he, would have been selected, right? Him get selected, pre-selected basically, and his family would have been allowed to come based on the rules. Now, him and him girlfriend, they've been talking about it and all of that. And of course, the man don't want to leave him girlfriend. So what him do? Him marry him girlfriend, right? And this is what I wrote for my notes, right? I'm literally telling you what I wrote for my notes. When love comes, when love causes you to marry young under the circumstances, because what you gonna do? Hmm? When you realize you can't leave your wife and your family to die a gruesome death, right? So you just have to just say, the heck with it. I'm just gonna, do this, right? Yeah. So they marry, and that way legally them say, all right, you're a family, so your girlfriend can, your wife rather, is your family, and so she can come, and by extension, her parents can come. However, last minute, something never get communicated correctly or something, because when they came for the family and Leo, they took him and his family, right? And them say, yeah, you have your wife, yeah man, come. But wife say, wait, what about my family, my mother and father? It's like, we don't see them on the list. They're not on the list, like a bouncer, When you try going to one party and the bouncer, they say, you're not on the list. Yeah, them kind of vibes there. So they got, you know, to the, they got set to the wayside. So him try to convince her to come with him and thing, even though him a go try and thing, and him a say, we go try and see if we can get you to come and whatever and thing. And, Leo's like, you know what, me nah leave her, me nah leave her. But his family is like, no man, come, and them, get him to come in, they force him to come at the last minute, and him have to say goodbye to her and thing right there. And it was, it started for me. This is where the emotions kicked in, because just, you know, me personally just looking at it and saying, boy, imagine being separated from the one who you love, and, just have to say goodbye, and you don't know for sure if you can really come back for her, if you'll be able to get her, to come and her family. Because, she ain't gonna leave with her family, and you respect her for that, because, you know what I'm saying? You probably want her family to come too. You don't want, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, the situation takes a turn after that. Now him reach at a place and thing, at the caves and something, and them see people them are outside where traffic come in, and the people them who actually get selected that are in lines getting themselves ready, getting acquainted and whatever, them tell them say, oh, you're gonna be in this area or that place and whatever of this cave. So that is where you're gonna call home for the foreseeable future, right? Man say, you know what? I'm out. Him find him way back home. Right? And when he reached back home to where the Hutchner's house is, he realized that them gone, and him find a bike. Him take the bike there, and him just jump on the bike and ride. Him not even know where him da go, but him know say everybody a try to leave the area. Right? So coming back to him. Meanwhile, back at the journalist, Jenny, she, come to the realization, say, what go on and thing. And, the emotional moment that really hit me the most, right, was when she got that call, right? And even now I'm speaking to you, and if you hear my voice breaking up, it is because I'm just reliving this feeling from the movie and how I felt. She got that call that her mother had passed away, right? She took her life. Because, in these gloom and gloom times, she wanted to go out on her own terms, right? Which I totally respect, right? If you decide that you want to do it on your own terms, you have your senses together, you're not out of your mind or not like that, and you have decided that this is what you want to do, that is up to you, right? That's just what I think, right? Many persons might not agree with me, but that's how it is. And it hit her like a stone, and it hit us, listening, watching. It hit us right in the feels, right? So after that, of course, she would have been basically just waiting to hear from them and stuff. I think her father had come to come by to talk to her and stuff, and she kind of deflected him show her some old pictures and him asking her about, like, you remember about these things? You remember when we were standing on the beach and taking photos back then and so on, and you know all of that. And she was like, she was not honest with him. She tell him, say, no, me no remember that. Don't remember that. It's like, she brush him off and run him. But little after that, no, she kind of got soft on the whole idea, because, she went back, looking back at stuff and whatever. She also did something very sacrificial. So the boss lady, where they put her up on the story in the first place, she have a child, and when they were drawing straws to see who would be able to leave and go to the caves and so on, she draw the short straw, right? Among other persons, draw the short straw. And so she and her daughter basically would have ended up, not going. Jenny seeing this, realizing, say, boy, it's a mother and a child. She took the child, right? And at this point, I'm like, where is Jenny going with the woman picking it? You know what I'm saying? They just take the picking and she run. She she reach up to us for the helicopter there, because the helicopter is there already now for everybody and thing. And them that said, Jenny, you're not going on the helicopter. And when she saw, she had saw the boss child, she take the boss child and run now. And she reach at the helicopter now. And you say, all right, it look like said Jenny decides that she gonna grow that child or something. Nah, she tell the boss to get on the helicopter because the two of them are take her spot. It's like there's no time for you to think at that point, 'cause she said, but Jenny, and she said, no, you need to get on the helicopter. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? It just, I mean, that was really cool. You know what I'm saying? Of Jenny to just do that, you know what I'm saying? In that moment, just seeing, the two of them, and probably even just recognizing herself as a child and the boss as her mother, and be like, I give this child and her mother a chance, right? I don't deserve this as much as they do. And so she allowed them to live, right? So when they went, the back to the guys on the spacecraft, right? The mission on the Messiah. So there would have been some complications. The captain would have been out of commission. Fish, right? Robert Duvall's character, he would have taken over basically as the captain of and thing, because it would have taken some time when they had picked up on the comet and done the initial damage to it, and it break up into the two pieces. So coming back now to Earth, they would have spent a lot of time to get back. So by the time them for come back now, it was up and really, right? But at that point now, during those time, they had time to basically think, and Fish presented an idea to the crew members that were there, that maybe this is as far as they go home, right? Now, that was a serious situation because I'm thinking, hey, no matter which mission you're upon and thing, no matter if your boss, your captain say, hey, we're gonna be doing this, you're gonna be like, no, I wanna reach home, I wanna go home. And you had someone who said that too. One of them, I don't remember if it was the cosmonaut, the Russian cosmonaut, or one of the other guys was like, yo, I wanna go home still, you know. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I think they initially voted to go home, and then, you know, later on now they realized, boy, it makes sense to sacrifice the save the earth, you know? So Biedermann was already way ahead. So, you know what I'm saying? It was small and it still would have done some damage, but it wouldn't be too cataclysmic, right? But Wolf remained big and so on. So they decided to target that, right? They basically gone a kamikaze mission, right? Yeah, that's all I can say about it really. You know what I'm saying? Because you just hear them just communicate with Houston and tell them, say I'm going to ask them to talk to them family members for the last time, and all of that was it bring back a lot of emotions. I mean, I have to be honest, listeners, I teared up right now. Some tears are coming my eye just reliving that part of it. It just teared me up. I mean, as I said, the emotions start at one point in the movie and it never stopped. This was a serious tearjerker. And I'm telling you, I could not, you know, I could not continue without saying that to you guys. But anyways, what they did was good enough because it knocked that big one off course and it didn't reach Earth. But the smaller one came in, right? So we catch up back to the story of Biedermann, right? So Biedermann would have reached back the youth now, reach back now, and right as he reached back at the place now, the Biedermann, the comet that's coming, the small piece, it entered the Earth atmosphere. Everybody saw it coming, and they didn't have much time. Leo girlfriend, parents, the Hotchners, them say, because them have a little baby, them say, take him, make a life basically. Them a say, yo, we not gonna be able to get out in time because there is a big long traffic, right? One long traffic on the highway, right? But because Leo was on bike, him could navigate around the traffic, right? So them put the two of them on the bike and two of them a ball, me a ball too. But you know say the two of them crying out them eyes and they ride, they ride, they ride to the hills because you know you have to go as high as possible because when the comet hit, right, it would have. And then let's talk about Jenny now. So Jenny, she ended up going to the beach where her father would have been. Her father was there. She went and saw him standing on the beach. And the two of them see the comet coming in. The comet hit the waters. And the big tsunami wave come in and take them out. Yeah? It wasn't gruesome. That's the thing about it that I liked. It wasn't gruesome, but you felt it. You knew that it happened. You knew that they were gone. Right? Same thing with the Hotchners who were on the highway. Everybody would up on the highway and people are trying to outrun it. People with the in a New York City are trying to outrun it. All over they're showing different angles and you know what I'm saying? You can see people are trying to outrun it and yeah. People up on buildings and buildings are get toppled over because of the waves. Leo and girlfriend reach on top of the hill. Them have to left the bike because the bike tap. And them have to run and them a run with baby. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They've reached on the top of the hill where the waves couldn't come any further. Yeah. They reach at the top of the, at a certain point. They're not at the top, but they reach a point where it couldn't come any further. After the say it again. But say at that moment there of emotion when Jenny and her dad stand on the beach, right? Me just that thing say, boy, all right, probably, probably them all get saved. Probably it'll go drop in the water and then something, I don't think them that, me not believe say, the movie that really make Jenny and her father just dance. So. But it did. And it just left me stunned. Yeah. See, me have to repeat myself about this because, like, it's just wow. So Leo and his girlfriend, his wife, Sarah is her name. They survive the wave by escaping to higher ground, right? In the Alapacian mountains. I can't read today. Yes, so the president, we see him talking to the nation, right? Showing how the damage did to the land, right? And then I promise to rebuild, right? As the water recede and stuff. We basically get to see how certain things are happening and thing, in that last moment there, Yeah. Kind of remind me of the day after tomorrow as well, that whole flood scene and all of that, and I think I might have to do that. Wink, wink. Yeah, yeah. Again, I must say this movie was emotionally epic. This movie was, for me, the movie will say, yo, we're gonna make you sit in this and realize that nothing there's no Deus Ex Machina moment. Can you wait pan it, can you say, all right, with all of the things that are happening to all of the other people, fine. But these main characters, things gonna work out for them, right? Jenny lose her mother earlier on, and you're like, all right, that means that Jenny is safe. Most times, in the plot, you believe she is safe. But in this movie, she was not. Yeah. And of course, as I mentioned, this movie and Armageddon came out in the same year, and they are two opposite sides of a spectrum in certain things, right? Deep Impact is really impacting the soul and the emotions and all of that, while Armageddon is a totally different one. I'm not going to talk about it until I actually do the deep dive, so stay tuned for that. So here are my theories about unresolved mysteries and plot points. So, what can I say about this film other than what I've said before in my analysis? Deep Impact really looks at what reality could face, real feelings, real emotions, the way how people are. Even now, with all the things that are happening in the world, you have to think about what things mean and what kind of response to give to certain situations, right? And so some of the unresolved plots them include things like the government secrecy and the feasibility of it. Because the film kind of give you this idea that the government has been hiding this comet's existence for over a year from its citizens, right? So you really haven't given much thought to what would be a good way, or the best possible solutions, because what you basically say is that you're only bringing in the best minds. So you say, all right, you share this information with others in the world. Understandable, right? Probably you share it on a certain level where you're sharing it with the persons who are the richest persons in society and people who you think have influence, and with the hopes of being able to have the best solution. But sometimes the best solutions don't come from the smartest minds only, right? Sometimes the best solutions come from the everyday man, the man who can look at a situation simply, without complexity, without too much sophistication. Many times in my day job, when you write code, you find, say, even as I might have how much years of experience, sometimes a simple solution escapes my grasp because I'm not really looking that direction, because I'm saying, all right, there are so many different things to this thing, when probably someone can come on and look at it and say, oh, but you just need a simple little part. You just need to do this. That's all you need, right? And then there is the survival logistics and the realism of the whole bunker idea. So them have these underground shelters, right? Them design them to save 1 billion people, right? Supposedly, they have been doing this since the beginning. So them say, all right, let us look at all of the solutions. Yeah, that one here sound good, but what if it hits? How are we going to save our people, right? How are we going to go on? And them say, all right, you know what? The best thing for us is to have these caves and, store up resources like food and water, right? Air, maybe not, because based on where they are putting the caves and, the whole idea of having thing there, where it's going to land, yes, they would need it, because if it's an extinction level event, a comet can hit a particular point of crust and cause some devastation, and the geologists can correct me if I'm wrong. It might, set off volcanoes. It can cause, climate change, instant climate change, all sort of stuff can happen. But the film never got in depth into all of these things, so I can understand that, it just kind of just brushes it and just say, all right, this is something that we could possibly do. But there would be a lot of things that would necessarily need to be put into place, in order to have these things actually work out logistically, right? And then there's the tidal wave inconsistencies, you call them. Yeah, so from what I understand, comet, if it cause a tsunami, right, it would have to be moving faster than the speed of sound, right? And the wave would have to be very, very high, probably at least 1,000 feet high, right? But we're seeing where the survivors them are stand at certain heights that may necessarily no add up. It don't add up there, so them there at a certain level, because the highest mountain, I don't even have to think about it, but the highest mountain, nothing would have been able to, you know what I'm saying, reach there, so. But where these people would have been able to survive, they would have need special breathing equipment and them some there can reach certain heights and so on, based on the height of the wave and all of that, and how fast it move, It's not like so you can outrun it. Yeah. Of course, one of the other things about the movie was that Sarah's parents, even though they showed them on the highway, we never really get a confirmation say boy them did actually die or they were able to survive like other persons. Who knows? They maybe between the time when Leo left them on the bike, they got themselves another bike and they got to safety somehow. You don't really get to see them again. It's assumed that basically after that, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or probably them day in a car afloat. It's possible, right? Anyways, that's why it's plot points, eh? So there are some deeper retcons in this movie, right? That I've also noticed as well. You've got some ocean coming. It's a sort of foreshadowing, right? When Jenny research, there's a suggestion that there is a tsunami sort of thing happening, right? Some subtle little clues about the disaster, right? It's something that is, if you not pay attention at that point, you wouldn't pick it up initially, And then there's the Messiah crew's sacrifice, right? As a symbol of hope. So the Messiah crew, them would have sacrificed themselves to destroy the comet, right? And this a show that, there's some similar tones to Armageddon movie, right? So it kind of does show, something kind of different, but at the same time similar with the heroic idea. And then there is President Beck's speech, right? It come like one meta commentary, right? So it focus on hope rather than despair. And it kind of critique the whole apocalyptic narrative, right? And basically emphasize and prioritize human resilience. And then you have a lot of debates around the lottery system. So the shelters them lottery excluding like elderly individuals, right? And families that are not selected. So you have to wonder why you don't have a system set up like that. To say, boy, all right, the old people them almost like you want to say them live their life already. Right? I think I mentioned this already. You come like you live your life already, and so old people time gone. Young people time now. Young people are gonna be the future. And so because they are the future, business about them, It just seems very inequitable. You think about, all right, you have old people who have experience, right? Although you have a lot of old people who love a lot of tradition too much, but and if I say you can give them some chance to be able to contribute to society in some way, right? Old people pass on certain traditions that are necessary to our survival. If you look at it like that, it can work, right? Of course, there are some things that the scientific community would definitely harp on, right? And I mentioned it earlier on in my analysis again. The comet detection timeline, right? So there's no way it could go unnoticed for a whole year before them, impact was imminent and them I realize, boy, boom. Because, you know what I'm saying? Unless the whole of the scientists around the world lost their ability to science, right? Like in the series Three Body Problem, which I will be doing podcast on at some point. I know I probably promised you this before, but we're definitely gonna do it. Okay. So there is a pressure wave that comes with tsunami physics, right? From what I understand. And the air pressure that would be generated would flatten some structures even before the water arrival. So it wouldn't take until the water arrival but it's storytelling, so you have to kind of just make things just work a certain way. Yeah. And then there is societal collapse, right? There's no way that you wouldn't have a total global economic and political breakdown, right? Especially during the comet's approach, right? It just, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't jive. That would have been something that would have happened. That's something that I didn't really think of initially, but after reflection, I'm like, wait, this makes sense that, these things would happen during a situation like that, But with all these theories, plot points, there is one question that I still have on my mind. Why did the senator guy really resign? You know what I'm saying? Why really resign? You know what I'm saying? Yes, it was a cover story, but we didn't get, I don't think it was suggested as to why it is. Are even given a good look. They suggested certain things. It doesn't jive. Yeah. This is a question for you, the listener. I hope that you can drop me a comment and also share your favorite deep impact moments. How deep did deep impact you? And also share your theories. You know where to put it in the comments. As a matter of fact, on Podbean, there is a section now for you to comment on the website. So you can go to the website if you have not done so. If you're listening on Spotify or Audible or wherever you're listening to this podcast, there is a section to comment. In this episode, we looked at Deep Impact, humanity's race against extinction from the stars. A story of survival, sacrifice, and humanity's desperate struggle against an existential threat from the cosmos. So I'd mentioned this movie really hit the core of emotions for me, and I'm sure it will for you. There were so many moments that it just brought me to that point of saying, wow, how could this happen? From that moment that truly just set the bar. Yeah. And I hope it did the same for you. I must say I enjoy doing these podcast episodes because I get this outlet to be able to break these amazing stories, dive deep into the concepts and the theories, some of the unresolved plot points. And this is one of the podcasts that really says to me, I should do more. I should continue. And I hope that you have enjoyed these episodes and this one in particular. That is it. And there you have it. Another thrilling chapter in our voyage to the universe of sci-fi television. We've reached 1,000 downloads, and the journey now sets course for 1250. Every bit of engagement helps. Follow, comment, and share your thoughts. Until we meet again, keep exploring the unknown.